From the pages of MikeHuckabee.com, where you'll find all my columns, news of the day, and daily Bible verses, it's time for another look at some of the stories making headlines, and some you might have even missed. And to have it all beamed to your email inbox twice a day, and it's absolutely free. All you got to do is sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. The New York Post is reporting that the Biden administration has been secretly flying illegal immigrants, mostly children and teens, but not all, from the Texas border to suburban New York under cover of darkness. That's to settle them across all over the Northeast. A Post review of flight tracking data indicates that about 2,000 illegal border crossers have been flown to a small airport outside White Plains on 21 flights since August. When they land, which is usually between midnight and 4 a.m., they're reportedly put on charter buses, then taken to various locations from the Bronx to Connecticut. That news was met with outrage from some local residents and Republicans, but the White House claims it's nothing new, saying it is our legal responsibility to safely care for unaccompanied children until they can be swiftly unified with a parent or a vetted sponsor. Well, that sidesteps the issue that it is also their legal responsibility to enforce border security to prevent us from having to deal with the tsunami of unaccompanied children. But here we are. I can't help but wonder how gullible they think we are to say there's nothing sneaky going on. When they get caught doing this in the middle of the night, they think it's normal. Kind of reminds me of comic Flip Wilson's advice. Midnight is a good time to be sneaking. If anyone sees you, they're sneaking too. The New York Post editors also have some choice observations about why these flights are being conducted under cover of darkness. Because having open borders and waving in illegal immigrants might be popular with left-wing progressives, but it's not so popular with most Americans. So Joe Biden's people have to try to make sure that most Americans never even hear about this. Consider this to be the sound of a blowing whistle. And speaking of New York, where Mayor Bill de Blasio is making every second count in his effort to make history as the worst mayor of all time, having presided over the complete destruction of the clean, safe, booming city that he inherited, he's finishing out his term doing demolition work, like scrapping the school's talented and gifted program. I guess he figures no Democrat voters will ever come out of that. And now likely removing a statue of founding Father Thomas Jefferson from the city council chamber, where it has stood for 187 years. You know who predicted this? Watch.
Are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
I do love
Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue.
That was called ridiculous at the time. Now, it's true that Jefferson and Washington owned slaves, but it was Jefferson's words from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those words, those were the foundation of the abolitionist movement. Unfortunately, New York's current mayor and other city leaders don't have the brains or the inclination to consider history in any broad context. All right, let's move on to the Twitterverse, where the Washington Compost got a good roasting for their take on empty store shelves, higher prices, and all the rest of the issues with the supply chain crisis. Here's what they said. Quote, "Don't rant about short-staffed stores and supply chain woes. Try to lower expectations," end quote. Here's what some of the finer folks on Twitter had to say about that. Lower your expectations. Yes, do that, because those hunger pangs will eventually subside. Amazing. Here's another from Ron DeSantis' spokeswoman. Strong Afghanistan is your fault vibes. Corporate media really outdoing themselves under the Biden administration. And this one would make a pretty good bumper sticker. Next up, circle back Jen Psaki. There's always a good line from her. Here she is making light of the supply chain crisis that's impacting every sector of the American economy.
It was crystal clear that things were not improving on supply chain. People couldn't get dishwashers and furniture and treadmills delivered on time, not to mention all sorts of other things. So why is
the tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed?
Right.
Tell us you don't care without explicitly saying you don't care. Thanks so much for that clarity, Jen. Next, from the state of Florida, where cops say a man armed with finger guns robbed Waffle House of napkins. The Madison County Sheriff's Office reports that Edward William Rodriguez barged in, accompanied by a small dog, and began shouting, "Get on the ground, y'all! You're getting robbed." The suspect then stated that he was high and drunk. No surprise there. Before he grabbed some napkins and walked out. Now, quite frankly, of all the things to take at a Waffle House, napkins? Really? Mr. Rodriguez was arrested without incident and transported to the Madison County Jail. No word on whether those napkins were returned to Waffle House. My gosh, he could have at least asked for the All-Star Special. Finally, it may seem like an impossible dream, but AOC has a challenger in New York who might actually have a chance to boot the media's favorite socialist fashionista right out of Congress. Like AOC, this person is Hispanic and even a former bartender, but that's where the similarities end. Desi Cuellar's parents fled Cuba to escape the socialism that AOC is so enamored with. He knows what it's like to be poor, work hard, and even be homeless, but he refuses to blame America for his early struggles or ever play victim. He even joined the National Guard because he says he wanted to do more for the country. I wish him all the luck in the world. Now, it might seem like a long shot since AOC got 71% of the vote in 2020, but note that the 14th district has a population of nearly 700,000, and AOC's total vote was barely 150,000. There are a lot of people there who didn't bother to vote. Let's hope Cuellar can inspire them to go to the polls this time around and remind them that they elect someone to Congress to represent their beliefs and interests, not those of Fidel Castro or Karl Marx. Well, until next time, these have been the facts of the matter. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, then subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Now, if you didn't like it, you ought to find a Ben Shapiro video to detox you with more facts.